All right. Welcome, everybody. The open bar stream before myself and Josh missing Alex today because he just got off vacation. How you doing, sir?
Good, good, very well. Glad to be back in the saddle as well because I couldn't make the last one because I was out on a business trip and now I'm back, and so that's the fun part about the amount of people that we have is that hey, if one person can't make it, we have a substitute ready to go.
Oh yeah. We always got a backup plan. That's what makes Men of Now so special in my eyes because you don't get access to one person. You get access to five experts. Whether it's coaching, dating, lifestyle, business. We got a little bit of all of it. You got access to five coaches, not just one.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
So,
yeah, it's a fun thing.
so you were in
But yeah,
Fort Worth, right? Fort Worth or Dallas?
yes, I was out there in the Fort Worth, Dallas area, out in good old Texas, which I love Texas. Always have a good time every time I'm out there.
Yeah.
Got to meet up with a member from the group out there as well. So it's fun when you've had a virtual relationship with someone for about a year and a half or so, and then you get to meet
Mhm.
up in person, which is actually kind of funny because I was like, it's ironic that like I'm meeting that you've met yourself, Kevin, and Bentley, like before I even met you guys in person yet. So
Yeah,
someday
yeah,
we
that's
will
true.
meet
Yeah,
each other
someday
face
we'll
to
make it
face.
happen. We've got some meetups in the works, but we're just taking it one step at a time. But yeah, that was cool. Yeah, like you said, me and Bentley were in Dallas back in November and got to meet one of the members, and it's really cool because we get to see that we're all human beings. We're all it's not just through Zoom or through counseling or anything like that. So it was really cool. And Dallas is a world class city, man. I would like to go back there one day, not for just a Tony Robbins event, but just to hang out because it is a world class city.
Yeah, no, I love Dallas. Dallas is great. Again, barbecue, just eating good out there. So it's like, yeah, I don't know, like who ordained Texas to be the barbecue state, but
Yeah.
yes, I am a full fan and supporter of that.
Yeah. And one thing about Texans, man, they're proud of Texas. I think that's the only
Yes.
state that the school still teaches state history in elementary school to be proud of where you're from, and you have to learn the state song. You don't see that much anymore. So I mean, that makes Texas very special.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah,
to
which
have
is really cool. And it's like it's very much if you're cool and you're chill and you get in with the vibe, hey, everyone's welcome and they're happy to have you. If you're trying to like really go against the grain or just really be a little too outlandish, they'll let you know real quick, like, hey, what's up? So that's the thing I like about Texas a lot is that it's just that sense of like, hey, where we're proud of where we're from, where we take a great amount of pride in, who we are, our culture, and what we do and contribute. So it's a cool thing to see. So yeah, I like Texas.
yeah, and to go there to be paid to go there, that's not a bad thing. But
Not at
like we
all.
were talking about in the pre-show, I've started another sector of my coaching business and got certified through Ramsey Solutions and trained. And I've been consulting with some people lately, and it's starting to not only amaze me but concern me of the comfortableness with financial mediocrity that I'm noticing, especially in young people. The couple I consulted with last night, they haven't made a commitment to start coaching yet. They're in their early 30s. A lot of consumer debt. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but the way that they looked at it and pictured it, that just paying the minimum payments, it will have paid off eventually. And you could tell the female didn't even know how compounding interest works on a loan. If you're an investor, interest is a reward. However, if you borrow money, interest is a penalty. And I think I had a aha moment with her, but the husband's very stubborn still. He even made the comment to me. He was like, well, being middle class, we will always be in debt. And as a coach, you have to remain objective. You got to inject hope, try to learn more about the situation. But I politely told him I was like, I'm middle class as well, and I made the final payment on my house almost 2 years ago. Actually, in 2 weeks, it'll be my 2 year anniversary of being completely 100% debt free.
Love it.
And I will tell you that there was a weight on my shoulders that I had my entire adult life that I didn't even know was there. And I hope that people, especially young people, start getting away from the typical just borrow your way through life and not leveraging it and always have bills and always being mad because you're not making enough to pay the bills and do the things you want, and really become a lot more financially aware. I think that will make the culture a lot better.
Yeah, it's just funny how it's like it's all about the economy of scale, right? Because like debt, especially like even strategic debt, right? Which is the best type of debt you should use, right?
Yeah.
Debt with a purpose, not just, well, I just felt like treating myself or whatever. It's like, no, like, hey, I had an emergency and I got no other option. I need to borrow some stuff. I mean, been in that situation before myself, so know exactly what that's like. But it's really about the economy of scale, right? So for a lot of people, the exact same type of debt tools and systems that are there can wind up like crushing them, being a burden, versus somebody else that's like much more affluent. It
Mhm.
actually funds everything that they do for free. So like for example, Jeff Bezos, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, yeah, he borrows all of his worth, right, against the leveraged against his stock, right?
Mhm.
So he just takes out loans, which are tax free, right? And then the stock
Mhm.
goes up a little bit, great. He gets a little bit of a sell off, and then he winds up covering out his interest and everything on that front. But again, the people at the top, right? Everything is all not using their own money, borrowing and leveraged all over the place, right? And they
Yeah.
can do it infinitely, but they work it to their advantage because they have the scale to get there. So when you're lower down the total pole, it definitely can be a lot harder and a lot tougher, right? Because it's like, hey,
Yeah.
if you got to borrow 5K, but your monthly income's only 4K, well, it's a very, very big different thing than you having like $10,000 in assets that you can liquidate at any time you need to in order to actually get the cash and then cover to make sure that you're okay. So that's
Yeah.
the real big difference right there.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of people, especially in the normal society, most common society, that leveraging debt is something that's here when they're still here. You can definitely do that. However, consumer debt, especially like a car is not an investment. If you borrow 100% on a car and you drive it off the lot and it goes down 20%, you're at a negative net worth at that point. And that's, to me, that's very elementary and that's very simple mathematics, but a lot of people don't even understand that part of borrowing money.
Yeah, and it's like, there's the way in which you can leverage that for your own good, right? Because if you have an open car loan, as long as you're making your payments on it, right, that's one of the best things to keep your credit like super high, right? Having that, like every friend that I have that has multiple cars, right, doing crazy well, they all have at least 1 to 3 different cars that they have leased, just so that way they have that car note on their credit report, keeping it at that perfect 800, or 820 or whatever the FICO score is,
Yeah.
right? So it's like it can be used like that, but again, like no one's really teaching people like, hey, here's a thing that you need, but here's a way in which you can use it that really works well for you. And so it's actually kind of goes back to this debate I was having with another group of friends of mine um, on Monday, and we were talking about the higher education system and college, right? Because college is one of those things, right? You want to talk about financial irresponsibility, right? It's like, well, you have to go through all these different credit checks and whatever you want, right, to like get a car or get a mortgage or whatever. But you can be a 17-year-old kid with literally no credit history. And yeah, no worries. We'll give you $200,000
Yeah.
in a loan,
Yeah.
right? So it's one of those things that like if you don't work it, it can definitely be a very massive burden for you, like going forward. And no one's teaching people on the front side, like, hey, here's what your options are, or here's how you can use this to your advantage. Because it really is a double-edged sword. Like, it can be a great, fantastic tool that will really help you and really help you excel. Or for a lot of people, it just becomes a sword that you actually trip over in the middle of the night. And the next thing you know, you've like stabbed yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And, especially young kids. And I blame a lot of parents for their, lack of a better term, financial ignorance of not explaining to them that, hey, you can go to community college first, get your prerequisites done at $600 a semester rather than 5,000 a semester, and then transfer to that big school that can get that degree if you want that is going to equate to a job, and then you can keep the debt to a minimum. But some people, especially young kids, they put the school above the degree. They want to go to this prestigious school because of its reputation.
Right.
However,
And it's like,
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, it's like again, the whole reason is like, what's your purpose? Like, do
Mhm.
you know specifically what you want to do and how that figured out? Because now we've gotten into an era where college before used to be a place where you had the time and it was very affordable, where you could spend like a year or two really kind of like trying to figure out what it is that you really want to do or what direction you want to go.
Yeah.
Now it's the price has gone so astronomical that
Mhm.
unless you have a very clear like vision on where you really want to go and what it is that you want to do, it's probably not worth it for a lot of people. And again, to your point, if you really need that time to kind of figure it out, then yeah, definitely go the community college route to start. Figure out those 2 years, find out if college even is for you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that great trajectory, then that you have planned out for yourself, the next thing you know is like, oh great, I'm a 22-year-old kid with $145,000 in debt, and I've got a very useless major and degree with no practical
Yeah.
experience, but also I have no trajectory for a place for me to go and land once I'm done. Because that's what
Mhm.
people think is like, oh, I just get a diploma. And it's not like, well, magically just the job fairies start coming out and just like blessing you with all these different things or not. Like you have to stage and position yourself while
Mhm.
in school in order to find a place to land. And so, people just aren't being prepared for it.
Yeah, and you know what I see a lot of young people too. They have unrealistic expectations. Say everybody, even people that get the business degree, like I've got, like 200,000 people a year get. If you can land a job with a reputable company that you can grow with, if they offer you 55 to 60,000 to start off with, especially in some place other than New York City, California, something like that, you should jump on it because you've got room to grow and you can get an experience and you start corporation hopping every 2 years, level up and go to another corporation. But some of these, when I was working for a rather large company about 3 years ago, we had interns and some of their expectations with basically degrees on underwater firefighting, they thought they were going to get 120, $130,000 a year coming out of the gate. And I'm sure
Yeah.
most of those kids were very, for one, disappointed, but very humbled in how corporate world actually works.
Yeah, I mean, live humbles you super quick, and I again, that right there is will blame like more. I place more of the responsibility on the input side of the equation because it's not like when you're going to the school, you just magically have this expectation of, oh, I'm going to make six figures a year. Like
Mhm.
that is coming from somewhere. So it's like we got to need to figure out where exactly that misconception is coming from. Because when I went to school and I was graduating, I was like, oh my gosh, like if I could make $60,000 a year out of college, like that would be so much money. I have no idea what I would do with it. Like,
Yeah.
that was like a wild number, at the time.
Oh
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah. And then to do
um,
that without $150,000 in debt on college loans, that makes it that much better. But I think that's
yeah,
where a lot of these young people get it messed up is they think, well, I'm going to borrow $150,000 a year. So that should be my starting point salary. Unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that, and especially here in America. The American dream is very real. And when you talk to people overseas, and you're world traveled like I am, the thing that they don't tell people, especially young people, yeah, the American dream is real, but you work your fucking ass off.
yeah, America's a really interesting and unique spot because we invented as well as we're the only place that like really actively manages our middle class, which again is a relatively new invention. I mean, the middle class has really pretty much only been around for like 90 years or so. So
Yeah.
this is a really, really interesting, unique thing that we have and that we've curated. But also, and the thing that a lot of, especially American students out here don't realize or understand is that America is literally the best place in the world to make your money. Nowhere else in the world will offer or afford you the opportunity to make anywhere near the amount of money that you can possibly make it anywhere else, unless you happen to be born into some type of royal family or
Yeah.
some extremely well connected family. But for the 0.0001% that qualifies for, it's
Mhm.
easy. Everybody else, it's an incredibly much more difficult time, and more cultural there's a lot more cultural shifts that are like stacked against you as well. Where say, for example, if you're in Italy and you're 28 and you don't have your career like figured out, locked in, and you're successful at it, you're pretty much written off as a failure. And just like, all right, well, you'll just be a failure forever. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
might as well go jump off a bridge. Whereas here, it's like you can reinvent yourself as many times as you want, like every decade if you want. Like, hey, I'm 20, reinvent myself. When I'm 30, I'll reinvent myself. When I'm 40, I'll reinvent myself. That just type of opportunities just culturally aren't there, and they just aren't as available, especially on the monetary front. So the thing about the trick we have here in the States is that now, because things have become a lot more polarized, it's really, the system is still the same as that it's always been, where it's like, hey, if you can really work it, you can really do well at it. But now it's gotten so polarized where it's just like, now you literally have to be in that real top 10% in order to really start reaping all the rewards. And you're going to get the best that you've ever gotten before. That it's going to be great. But then everybody else, it's just, you are going to have the hardest, most difficult time that you can imagine. Where if you rewind the clock back about 50 years or so ago, it was a lot more closer to about like a 60-40 split, where it's like, okay, 40% really have a really great shot. 60%, yeah, it's going to be like tough and rough, but you have a lot more wiggle room in getting to that 40%. It's going to be a lot easier. Now it's like, no, you can't even be in the 40% anymore. You have to be in the 10%.
Yeah, you definitely have to set yourself apart. You can't just show up and expect to make more money. Me and Alex had this conversation a while back when we were talking about teams, because he runs teams and I have teams at some of our job sites. And I had a young man. He's very young, high school educated, not knocking on that. General maintenance worker. His production was far lower than the guys on his team. So when I went down there for a site visit one time, I pulled him to the side, just casually asked him. I was like, "Are you having problems? Do you need more training? Are these guys not helping you out? Why is your production so much lower than your teammates?" And this kid actually looked at me and said, "If you paid me more, I would work harder." And it almost blew a fuse, but I've learned to manage the fucks I give, thanks to a friend of ours, or former friend of ours. So I told him I had to tell him, "Son, that it doesn't work that way. And you can take this knowledge to your next job, but you work harder to get paid more. You don't get paid more to work harder. So thanks for all you've done. We're going to shake hands and part as friends, but this is your last day." Because with that kind of mindset, you're never going to, you have that the world owes me. And especially for men, learn it as quick as possible. The world owes you nothing. And nobody's coming to save you, man. You got to get that out of your head, that you don't deserve anything. You have to earn what you get.
Yeah, and what I would tell that kid is that, like, you're paid what you're worth. So if you really do, show and demonstrate an example, like, that you are worth it, yeah, we'll be more than happy to pay you. Absolutely. Like, that's what this whole corporate, especially capitalistic structure is really based on, is like, yeah, if you can show and demonstrate the worth, be more than happy, over the moon to pay for it. But you just can't show up with that, like, well, you got to do it up front. It's like, yeah, to your point, it's like, it doesn't work that way. Life especially doesn't work that way. So it's like, you're paid what you're worth. So you have to make yourself worth something in order to get paid.
Yeah. And hopefully he learned from that. He's young. I think he was 21 or 22.
Okay,
And I was a kid at that age too. I had a bad attitude. I was angry at the world, had anger issues, couldn't control my emotions. So I can empathize with him. However, when it comes to my performance of what my teams do, I can't allow that. So hopefully he did learn something from that, and he can move on and do better. At 21 years old, like you said earlier, especially here in America, you have the ability to always level up, to keep leveling up, and to always do better and reinvent yourself and go down a path that you want.
Yeah, and especially in the modern era, where, again, like, ignorance now is a choice, because the information age, like, everyone has access to unlimited information. So there is no excuse to, like, not know or not be aware. Just the big thing is that, you are responsible for your awareness, right? Because if you're unaware, or you don't know what's happening, or this, it's like, look, all the information is there. It's available. It's insanely accessible. You literally have a machine in your phone that can answer any question that any human has ever asked throughout all of time.
Yeah.
So to sit here and tell me that, well, I just didn't know, or this, that, or the other, it's like, ignorance is no excuse anymore. So, and again, if you're not doing it, there's plenty of other hungry people out there that are totally doing it. So you have to understand the competitive field, because for every one person that's not looking up the appropriate information they need, there's 100 other guys out there that are super hungry, that are not going to eat or sleep, and all they're doing is thinking about is like, how do I solve this question? Like, how do I find more information on this? That's who you're competing against. And I don't think people really appreciate the fierceness of the level of competition that's really out there.
Yeah. And, it's like I said earlier too. I mean, you got to understand that nobody's going to, as a man, you got to realize, the faster you realize that nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to help you. Nobody cares about your struggles. Maybe a couple other men and maybe your family, closest friends. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for your progression. And like you said, it's all right there. And if you don't know how to use the internet, you can ask somebody, and that's, if that's the illiteracy that you're on, that's easily attainable as well, to learn how to search out certifications, continual learning. There's so many Skillshare out there, Charisma on Command, all these different types of schools, for lack of a better term, that can change any aspect of your life, whether it be business, dating, confidence, finance, all that. It's all out there. You just got to go do it. But a lot of people, especially in the blue collar world, I've noticed, they spend their time off, whether it be weekends, evenings. They spend that time escaping the world that they hate, the life that they hate. So they're doing relaxing, drinking beer, catching up on Netflix. If you change that mindset, and on these weekends, your time off at night, creating the life that you want instead of just escaping the life that you hate, you're on the right path to start something better for yourself.
Yeah, even just an hour, just put in an hour, like as much time as you can is best. But again, yeah, we get it. You got, kids are running around screaming, like breaking stuff. Work is crazy. So like, you get home and it's like, hey, you have 30 minutes of quiet time. Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, like, if you really do want it bad enough, because guess what? There are people out there that are in your exact same position, but they're finding and making the time. And, Ed Lattimore, the great Twitter philosopher, he had a phenomenal tweet years ago where, he tweeted that a crackhead will work tirelessly with no food and no sleep for 3 days straight just to scrape together and earn a little bit of cash to get that next crack rock and get their next fix. Are
Yeah.
you telling me that you're going to get outworked by a crackhead? And I was
Yeah.
like, when I read that, I was like, damn, like,
Yeah,
it's just,
it's to the
it's true.
point, but I mean, it's true as well. But like you said, you just brought up a good point, especially for the young guys out there that might see this, that, you're working hard, you're doing what you can. And yeah, you deserve your time off to decompress. You can't always be working. I get that. But if you do have kids running around, what's going to set a better example for them? Well, man, I remember my dad used to work. He would come home, he would take a shower because he was dirty. And instead of sitting on the couch drinking beer and arguing with mom, he was on the computer and he was learning how to do IT, or he was learning how to code, or and now look at the life we have, So, I mean, that can have a trickle down effect, instead of your kids spending their adolescence and teenage years seeing dad just always pissed off at work because he hates his job, never makes enough money, but comes home and then drinks beer and then argues with mom. And then they go to bed, rinse and repeat. What kind of example is that set for them? That's like, my dad realized that he wanted something different, so he fucking got it.
Yeah, I mean, because again, your kids don't really listen to what you say; they model you, right?
Yeah.
They see like the model, the example that you bring, and so they pick that up and they absorb that, right? And so that's really something you have to be extremely cognizant of when you have kids. And again, the other thing too is just again going back to that competitive field, because again, the real question is like, hey, no matter what your situation or your scenario is, there's other people in that exact same situation or even worse, but they're putting in the work and they're being more tireless and more vigilant in their efforts. So that's the real question, is a lot of times it just comes down to like, hey, how bad do you really want it? And like, how bad are you really willing to work towards it? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
agree. That's a whole nother show in itself, because yeah, a lot of men out there too, especially in that situation, the kids, the wife, the job, they don't really have a support channel, and our group can provide that. We've got a lot of guys in that position that are digging themselves way out of it. We've got 2 guys in our group right now that are in their early 20s and they are killing it in a lot of different aspects in their life. So, and to see the change in them, if I had something like that when I was their age, or what we have when I was their age, I can't say I would be better or worse, but it would have helped a lot.
well, if you also, want to know the like real like secret sauce behind how to really get ahead of the competition in a more efficient way, because again, you can work and you can work to literally no end. So just hard work isn't enough. But the secret sauce and secret formula of that, if you really want to know and you're really interested in that, then come hop on to the kickback that we're doing for the group. It's going to be behind the paywall, so members only. Sorry, everybody else, but if any of you guys are interested in learning that, then yeah, for sure, hit us up, join. More than happy to share it with you, share the resources. But
Yeah,
we're going
yeah.
to be hopping on to our weekly kickback stream here really shortly here. So for the members, we got something like real cool that we're going to lay on you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think till the end of the month, we do have a free trial going on right now. So if you want to check out our kickbacks, some of our book discussions, one of our meetings, feel free to check us out. No obligation, no commitment. I will be talking with you to find out what your steps forward look like and how we can help get you there. But guys, we got to roll. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. And if you want to like, subscribe, we would really appreciate it. We're new here at the Men of Now, so any support in any kind of way helps, and that's free.